Hi, everybody. This is Robin Randall, and this is my YouTube channel. I just wanted to let you know that recently a lot of you in the AOR community were searching for the song Somewhere in the Night for many, many years. I was alerted about this song several years ago by many people asking me if I knew who wrote this song and if I indeed wrote this song with my mother or if my mother wrote it with James Christian, and it became a whole thing. But no, I did not write this song, but I do love the song. And I, like the other fans of the song, wanted to know who wrote it and who sang it. So it's now been found, and I'm not sure of the person who actually found it, but I know one of the people that were alerted was Ken Potocki, and he reached out to me to let me know. Number one, he found it and he sent it to me, and it was great to hear the whole song. So I immediately wanted to find out about the writer. And one of the writers, there are two writers, and one is Jerry Deaton and Mark Leggett. Ironically, when people asked me if I knew who sang it, if I could recognize the voice, I know it was sped up quite a bit, but it sounded like a female voice to me. At least I thought it was, but there was something familiar about the voice that I just could not place. And I exhausted all the guesses and they didn't pan out, but found out that it's actually Michael Bradley. And I actually know Michael Bradley, and he actually sang one song for me back in the 90s. But my song is so different than Somewhere in the Night. It was a ballad for a movie that never ended up getting made. But I, when and then I was going to put this song on my anthology, but then I had a brain freeze and I couldn't remember Michael's last name for the longest time, so I couldn't reach out to him because I just totally spaced. And then as soon as I found out it was Michael Bradley, I was like, ding, ding, ding. Yes, Michael Bradley sang my song. So here it is. All the time I would have known who it could have been. But again, Michael was singing with a lot more force on Somewhere in the Night than my song. So I don't know if I would have put the two together. And maybe if it had been the real speed, I would have helped figure it out, but I sort of failed. Anyway, great job, Jerry and Mark Leggett, and great job with Michael Bradley singing it. So I have done an interview along with my interviewer for my docuseries, Ritch Esra, and with Ken Potocki. We did a Zoom meeting, and I want to post it so you guys can hear the backstory of Somewhere in the Night. And please go to Jerry's YouTube channel, Jerry Deaton's YouTube channel, to hear it. Okay. So I'm looking forward to seeing if it gets released and what happens to Somewhere in the Night. Bye.
Um, Jerry, the lost song phenomena, Somewhere in the Night, it became one of the internet's great musical mysteries,
Mhm.
before your identity was revealed. And, I'm just curious, what was it like to discover that a song you created decades ago had taken on this second life, as an obsessive online search?
Yeah, it was really odd because you write songs and so long ago you just forget they even exist. And they're just sitting in your catalog on your hard drive somewhere. And it was kind of fun to see that somebody had actually found it. And the version that was found was bizarre. I don't know what that sped up version was for. Were they doing remixes?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure what version was discovered, or that's why I'm asking you, like, how did you discover that particular song? Was it the sped up version that you first heard?
Yeah, I heard the sped up version, and I wasn't searching for that song. I think I was doing back in the 90s, you could put this frequency on your songs that were for tracking when that was going to become a thing, when Napster and all that stuff was really eating up royalties. And you could put a frequency on the song. And I had done that for a bunch of my demos. I was signed to Warner Brothers and SBK, and at that time, uh, Lipman Kahane Management, and they kind of required you to put this frequency on any songs because they wanted to track them and see where they were going. So I was doing an AI search for that frequency for the song, and it came up, and then I pulled up the song, and I'm like, "Is that my song?" And then when I realized they had just sped it up like almost 100%, then somehow I don't know how I did a search and came up with you guys somehow, or and then you reached out to me somewhere around the same time. So it was um, a really weird time where everything was kind of coming together based on that song. So
Do you remember who reached out to you to identify, like,
Was it
to
Ken?
say, yeah, was it Ken? Was it that to say, like, the
I
internet
think it
is
was
going
Ken.
crazy to find this?
Ken, why
Ken,
don't
There
you
was
was it
chime
you that
in?
emailed me?
there
Ken,
was someone that got to you before I did, that I'm not sure who the gentleman was, because I can add a little bit of backstory in with how the kind of search was going
Yeah.
on for it, because I was not originally involved with that. Because Robin and Ritch, the last time I spoke with the both of you, I told a story about how I had found an old Jill Colucci song that was never released, and it was a somehow, and I don't know how, word traveled that I had found that song. That was like this long, but it was identified. We knew the song title. We knew the singer was Jill Colucci. It was
Yeah.
just the full song was never released. And then just because I've got a really good big ear for that stuff, I love that type of music. I just kind of turned it into a project where I wanted to find that song. And then 5 years later, somehow word of that had gotten out, and a gentleman from Spain contacted me through my Facebook saying, "Ken, we heard that you were able to find this song with Jill Colucci. We have this song. We only have 30 seconds of it that we're trying to find. But the only problem is we don't know what the song title is, and we don't know who the artist is." And I said,
and you don't know
"Okay."
who the writers are either.
We had nothing. All we had was a 30-second track. And so I'm like, well, that's certainly a hurdle, but I'll give it a shot. And to go back to the pitch thing that you guys were talking about, so I was debriefed on the song search from, because there had been people looking for Somewhere in the Night before I ever was involved or I ever knew about this. My understanding is that 30-second clip of it was from a mixtape that a guy in France had made with a bunch of 80s songs. And the entire mixtape was pitched up and sped up, like both of them. And so I get just a group of these music fans that all have this lost music community online. They had been actively, these people had spreadsheets and Google Sheets and ways to track these songs they were trying to find. Like, I'm seeing all this and I'm like, oh my God, this is like a whole like secret society almost of people trying to find this music. And the only one that was unknown was they had it dubbed Somewhere in the Night, because this 30-second sample, it included the first verse and it got through about half of the chorus.
And that's it.
And
yeah.
yeah. And so everyone assumed it was called Somewhere in the Night based on the hook of the chorus, how it leads in. But I mean, because it was pitched up, because it was sped up, nobody knew, for example, if it was a woman's voice singing, if it was a man, nobody knew what the right speed was. And so everyone was just searching all vinyl records, thinking it was a song that was released on an album. And then, Jerry, someone got to you before, I mean, I did. My understanding from their part is that they just saw a Somewhere in the Night in the copyright database, and they saw the names Jerry Deaton and Mark Leggett attached to it. And I guess they just searched it out from there. And then I had been talking to Robin about this for a while. And then that's how kind of the idea to bring it up for this series came up, because it kind of ties into a few things we were talking about.
Yeah.
But as far as how the guys in France got that song, I don't know. It got out somehow, but
That's
I don't know.
baffling because uh I was with Warner Brothers at the time, and I know they pitched it to a lot of artists, and probably the only way it could have gotten out is if one of those artists just kind of like kept it for years and never decided to record it, and then just send it off to some mix engineer or something to get it put on some kind of compilation. But that's the only way it could have gotten out, because it definitely was never released to my knowledge anywhere.
Who told
Yeah,
you, Jerry, about it? Who told you? Those guys from France? Did they tell you?
No, I think Ken was. I think Ken was the first one that I remember. If someone else reached out to me, I might have just kind of disregarded it because I thought it was like some weird scam or something. And
yeah. There
but
was one before me because that was how I got your name.
Okay.
So that was through
but
that
your
guy.
email was legit, and I was like, okay, this is somebody's actually searching for this song. Because you had
Oh,
enough detail
yeah.
that it wasn't like a random, like a bunch of bumper sticker thoughts. It was really like you had some details, and you kind of knew. I think you referenced the singer. Did you reference the singer in the email?
Michael Bradley.
I did,
Yes.
yeah.
Then
Based
that's
on,
where I knew you knew what was going on with the song. And I figured, okay, you must be in contact with somebody, a publisher or an artist or somebody that actually had the demo. But then I realized you didn't have the demo, so I was happy to send it to you because
yeah.
it's
And
been
of course,
so long
now
ago.
that it's been identified, all the people that were sharing it, like unknown song, of course, now it's everywhere. Like everyone's saying, oh, it's Michael Bradley, Jerry Deaton, Mark Leggett. So now,
Yeah,
I mean, now you Google the song and it comes up everywhere now.
Everywhere, yeah.
yeah.
Word got out
I
quick.
Googled it and there's so many people posting about it. And I have to tell you that I can't remember the first, I'll share something here. I can't remember the first person that told me about it. I mean, I had people reach out to me on Facebook, emails, and at first, it's kind of like playing that game telephone where you tell somebody and then it just gets convoluted. There was a rumor that I had written it with my mother, with Judith Randall, my mother, and then that changed to my mother wrote it with James Christian. But then why wasn't James Christian singing it? And then that was debunked by me because this has got to be at least, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And then I asked some people because I started getting interested in like the mystery of it. I reached out to some people and they were like, no, that's not it. That's not it. And I'm listening to the voice. And the thing about it that's a connection between me and you, Jerry, is there was something about the voice that was something I recognized about the voice, but I couldn't place it. And it was sped up. So then I started thinking that it was a singer named Donna Hurst who we had used and a couple times, 2 or 3 times, but I had no connection to where she is, what had happened to her. And this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. So I lost. And it kind of sounded like her, but wasn't. But there was something about the voice that I felt like, and I told Ken that. And then as a parallel sort of story, when I was doing an anthology with Melodic Rock Classics Records with Andrew McNeese back in 2020, 2021, I was trying to compile all these old demos I had. And there was one song that I had, but I couldn't remember the last name of the singer, and I only used him one time. And I knew his first name was Michael, but I was drawing a blank as to what his last name was. I don't know why, and I couldn't find any notes written on who sang it. So I ended up leaving that song off the anthology because I couldn't credit him. And it was a song we were trying to write for a James Dean movie. And the movie never materialized. And so the song just stayed, dead. Nothing happened with it. But when Ken calls me with the good news, we found who wrote the song, we found who sang the song. And as soon as you said Michael Bradley, I knew immediately that That's the name. But my song was a ballad and it sounded nothing like Jerry's song. And I'm like, I think that's the same guy, but it sounds different. And so when I finally found Michael Bradley, listened to Michael Bradley, some of his songs, his own songs, because my mother made some connection with Michael Bradley and she was talking to Michael Bradley on the phone. And then she said, Robin, I want to use Michael Bradley for something because we've been talking, but he's a songwriter in his own right. So when I heard him online, I was like, yeah, that's Michael Bradley. So I have a connection with this all the time. I could have known who sang that and I didn't know. So that was my, but I tell you, Jerry, I really like your song. I mean, as a writer who's written in that AOR rock genre, I really, really like the song. So I was so like with the other super fans going, I really want to know, I want to hear the rest of this song and I want to know the answers. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I wanted to ask you, you've talked about how like the crazy week, I think that it was when your identity was revealed. And I'm just wondering if you can talk about that experience, what it was like when everybody finally solved the mystery that Jerry Deaton was the writer and that song, and it was found out. What was it like for you?
It was odd. It was kind of like a bunch of giggles, like, who cares about this song? Kind of
A
like
lot of people did.
I
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
it
Yeah.
makes no sense to me. I'm just like, it's so long ago, and I'm like, wow, it's flattering that people care, but it's just like it was just weird. It was I just kept thinking, but it did kind of like set off a thought in my brain where I was like, oh, maybe I should throw up a bunch of these old demos up on YouTube, get a channel going. So I actually just started doing it. Last night I started, or yeah, the night before I started putting up a bunch of old demos that were, I call them, almost hits. You know, they went nowhere, but they made the rounds, and there were some very fun people that became famous that played on them, and it's kind of like an interesting little genre. I think I didn't know people even cared. Honestly, had no
Well,
clue.
what's interesting about what you're saying is that that song, in my opinion, it embodies a very kind of specific '80s AOR sound that people are still drawn to today. And I'm just curious. I mean, you were the one who created it. What do you think it is about that era's production style? Was it the reverb, the synths, the vocal layer that continues to resonate with listeners today? Because there is a very big community, maybe not necessarily in radio, but in the culture that really still loves that AOR rock sound.
I think that period was a very interesting period because all the production toolboxes were opening up at that time
Yes.
period. So you didn't have to be stuck with one way of doing things. So the music started to become a little bit more interesting, especially to me. It's like it wasn't just, 145, bang out, Marshall amp, hit some drums, and the singer yells. It wasn't that anymore. It was just like you could craft a song, you could produce it where there are a lot of hooks, and it was very digestible music and very memorable music. So listen, I feel like it was the era of the listener. The listener could easily hear it, easily like it, easily sing it, and then just it got stuck in the brain somewhere. And that was a very interesting period. That I would say that went up until about 2000. And
Yeah.
then it just started getting into monotony.
And other things. What's interesting about what you're talking about is that what I find so interesting is very few people talk about that, but you were on the front lines of it, and those people who were on the front lines, and I was an A&R at that time, and one of the things I remember is exactly what you said, was that was also a very, very innovative time for technology. There was so much new kinds of technology coming forth with synclaviers, with MIDI, with drum machines, with synthesizers, with all of this different kind of equipment to make records sound in a very unique way. And a lot of that has been, refined over the years and refined and refined, but it was all new. And, you think of like dramatic examples of Mutt Lange, like when he did the Def Leppard records. I mean, it was like that whole sound taken to a degree that was like, unbelievable in terms of production. Or, the Cars or any of these bands that really utilized the technology to its fullest. It was its own sound, no matter who the artists were, they were utilizing that. And so it's so interesting to hear you speak about that, because I think that's kind of a forgotten element of the era production wise.
Yep. It was a real fun time. I remember not to name drop, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keith Olsen would bring me and a couple other guys in that were actually paying it. I'm originally a guitar player, but I kind of morphed into keyboards because I just thought it was interesting to deal with synths. And at that time, not a lot of people knew how to integrate the synths with a rock song. So Keith would bring me and a couple other guys in, and he'd go, "Look, I got this rock demo. I need you to figure out a way to put some synths on this, but don't get in the way, you know?"
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the attitude around 90, 92.
Yeah.
And he would bring us in because we were kind of tech nerds, and we liked syncing up, 2-track machines to like MIDI computers, which is basically what they were at the time, because he liked to have all that going on at the same time. He liked a lot of options. Sometimes he didn't use them, but he liked to have the option when he was going to a mix. So it was an exciting time for technology. Uh, People who had used drummers for years were like, "Yeah, let's bring in a drum machine. Let's see what that does." And they might have ended up only using the clap and the hi-hat and a couple little percussion ditties, but they were testing it out. And it became a really interesting time from, I'd say 89, 88 to like 97 were really interesting years for technology and incorporating them into pop tunes. And I was, I feel fortunate that I was there during that time period.
Very much so. You have transitioned into an era, I guess now, running audio cut. And can you talk about that? What that is?
Yeah, so Audio Cut, funny as it is, came out of the world of Napster destroying royalties for songwriters, right?
Okay.
And I started going, I had a family, I had payments, and I'm like, okay, I can't keep having my royalties just go down like a lead balloon. I said, so I got to do something where I work and a check is paid to me, you know? So I started going, okay, what job in the music and film world does nobody want to do because it's boring, tedious, and non-glamorous? I said, okay, it's audio post. You're sitting there, you're dealing with samples, you're dealing with mixing, you're dealing with non-ending mix problems because audio's bad from the film production, and it's just tedious, and nobody wanted to do it around the 2000s. So I jumped into that because the film producers they'd write a check. They'd go, "Come fix this, mix this, fix my problems. I'll write you a check," and you can
Right.
go off and you don't have to worry about the royalty situation. And then from there, it evolved into I did a couple films as a composer. And then because technology started becoming so cheap, 18-year-old kids in their mom's bedroom could get a few pieces of gear and write a score and put it in a film. So that started putting semi-professional film composers on the hot seat. And that's when I went full into audio post and went, you know what, I'm just going to do the tedious stuff that no 18-year-old wants to do. No 60-year-old, well, I was in my 30s, 40s, no 60-year-old wants to do. So I just kind of found a niche where I could get paid for doing something and, I could still do my songwriting. And I was putting cues in films and I was still doing that, trying to get the back end royalty thing happening for music. But it was really a necessity of paying my bills. To tell you the
Okay.
truth.
Smart.
Let me ask you something. You know, now that you have been that song has been rediscovered, and you mentioned earlier that you had started to put up a lot of your old demos onto a site. What do you want to do with that song, or what do you want to do with the songs? Do you just want to put all of your songs out there again, or do you have a specific plan, or what?
Actually, my goal is it's kind of like the analogy is I had bell bottoms in 1968, kept them in the closet, and if you wait till 2015, they come back in style.
Right.
So this is kind of what I'm doing. It's like I'm sure that these songs might hit a chord with somebody who just wants a song structure with lyrics and melody. Yeah, the lyrics are out of date by today's standards, but if you go into the country genre, they're kind of not that far out of date. So I'm hoping maybe some artist randomly hears one of these songs and goes, you know what? It's kind of hooky. I might want to re-record this and bring it into 2027.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's really my big, evil plan for
Okay.
the songs. Give them a rebirth somehow, recycle them.
Okay.
Because I felt like they were good songs back in the day, but they couldn't get through the political mainstream of publishing and recording companies to actually get cut. But they were a lot of them were very close to being on records. So I just like to see them get a second life.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So, Robin, do you have
Yes,
additional?
I
Yeah,
do.
go ahead.
I do have some questions, and I'm sure that Ken does too. My question to you, Jerry, is as a probably like-minded songwriter, when you write a song and you put everything into it, and I used to write with my mom, and she was primarily just a lyricist, and I'm a composer, but I do write, I do also, I'm a lyricist too. Um, and then a lot of times we would write with like a third person that would, be in the group. But I know that we would get really excited about like, okay, when that demo's done, and we weren't signed to a publishing company. My mother was a song plugger, so she would pitch songs for the company that I owned called Atso Music. And it would just astonish me sometimes, because, not sounding arrogant, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but we were really excited about a song. And so when it would get rejected for whatever reason, or hear nothing, we would go, we really thought that song was really good for that artist. I wonder what they don't hear in it. So in your song, when I listened to the whole entirety, when Ken sent me Somewhere in the Night, and it's some link that he sent me, I thought to myself, why was this song not cut? There's nothing wrong with this song at all for those artists at that time. And so I'm just like, and I say the same things to my, to me too, that like, well, I really believed in whatever song it was. Why didn't anyone, cut this song? And so in that song specifically, Somewhere in the Night, do you have artists that almost came close, but it didn't happen? Or, because I could name you some. So many of those late 80 artists, like John Waite, or Bonnie, may she rest in peace now, Bonnie Tyler, Hart. Even you were dealing with Keith Olsen, like Starship, Rick Springfield. I mean, a lot of people I could hear doing that song. So what happened?
Because the only time I have a first chair seat to see what happens in a meeting is when I go and I play it for a producer. And a lot of times, you go in those meetings and they're extremely distracted. And they'll put it on and they'll play it and they'll listen to it and they'll get past the intro and they'll go, yeah, I don't hear it. It's like, okay, all right, would you mind listening to the chorus and see if it just sticks in your brain or not? You kind of got to talk to them like that. And then they'll fast forward up to the chorus and they'll play it and somebody will be calling them. you know, yeah, I got to do this. Yeah. Okay, I'll rewind it. I'll listen to it again. They listen to it. Their mind's already thinking, yeah, I got to do lunch with somebody. So there's a big distraction problem back in the day when people were listening to songs for artists. Now, I found the best way to do it was, and it took me a while to learn this, but I started going around the record company and going directly to the managers. And then I would start having meetings with the managers. And then the managers would go, oh, yeah, I can see this for my artists, blah, blah, blah. I go, okay, cool. I said, well, you got to put a hold on it with the publisher because they won't let me pitch this to you any further unless you put a hold on it. So I would get a lot of holds on a lot of songs. But then whatever happened after that meeting was in the political realm. You might have a producer coming in and he or she is a songwriter and they want their song on the album. So they cut their fee for producing the record by $10,000 to get their song on the record. And then the record company loves it, the manager loves it. And that I ran into a lot of that. And that's when the bells started going off in my head. I was like, okay, I need to be a producer songwriter. I need to have my songs be the ones that I'm shoving off great demos, put my songs in because that's how it's working. And that's kind of how things were working back in the day. People didn't want to split their royalties. They'd rather be the producer, the songwriter, and the artist, which started coming up in late 90s. And then that's where the songwriting publisher gigs started just disappearing.
I can relate to that very much. When you just said that about this kind of the politics of it, I remember, and it was dealing with Keith Olsen, the producer Keith Olsen. So my mom was on the phone with him, and we had pitched a song. I had come off of having a Starship cut in 85, 86. Dennis Lambert and Peter Wolf had produced that album, Knee Deep in the Hoopla, and the next album was being produced by Keith Olsen. So we pitched a song that Keith really, really liked, put it on hold for the songwriter. That's the endless hurry up and wait, called Slow Down the Night. And they were excited about it. And we get this call after a couple months of waiting from Keith going, well, guys, Diane Warren just came in with a song and it was completely different. Like ours was an up-tempo AOR rock song. Hers was a ballad, but hers was called Set the Night to Music. And we just don't want two songs on the album that have the word night in it. Could you, and it's funny because your song has night in it, and it would have been a good song for the Starship, but we said, okay, but that's the hook of our song is Slow Down the Night. So what are we going to replace night with? So we said, he goes, could you rewrite the song? And we're like, okay, we're going to rewrite the song. So we rewrite the song to be called, instead of Slow Down the Night, Slow Down Goodbye. Like slow down our goodbye. It was definitely forced. It was definitely not as good as Slow Down the Night. But what are we going to do? We want the cut. So we go back. Now you can just go to your Logic or Pro Tools. You can easily change it in your studio, but we didn't have a home studio back then. So I go back to, I used to use King Sound. So I go back to King Sound, and then we had to recut it. We have to recut the vocals, get the singers back in there, recut the vocals, and then give it to Keith. So we do all this for him. And then at the end of the day, he was like, you know what, guys? He said, I don't think it's really working out with this song. So I remember what he said. We're going to put it back in the hopper for the next album. But we knew that come whatever, 2 years down the line, that's not going to happen. So that didn't happen. And the song was never cut. Was just never cut. Like you're saying, these little gems that you have, they were never cut. So what ended up happening to that song was the great, amazing demo singer for us was Mark Free. Later, Marcy.
I know Mark.
Yeah. And
Great singer.
my mother just got the brain, the light bulb in 93. Hey, all these rejected songs, or all these songs that really never saw the light of day, that Mark had done, let's make an album, a solo record for Mark of these tracks. And we got a record company, Now and Then Records, to Mark Ashton, to believe in it, to do it, and they did it. And now it's kind of a classic. It's kind of a classic album. But again, why those songs were not cut, we don't know. Why a lot of those people rejected it, because Slow Down the Night was not. They weren't the first people to hold it and then not do it. So I'm thinking it's similar for you.
It was. And you mentioned Diane. I was in the same publishing company as Diane. So I was always competing with the song pluggers, saying, "Oh, I can't wait for the next Diane Warren song so I can go immediately and get it cut." And then all the other writers in the stable are like, "Well, what about our songs?" "Oh yeah, yeah, we'll get to those." But it was like Diane was a powerhouse. She was unbelievably prolific, and everybody wanted her songs. And they would literally put one of her D-level songs on an album just so they could get an A-level song on the next album of the artist they really thought was going to break out. And that went on. I saw that go on so many times. I saw friends of mine that had unbelievable songs that just got kicked off from the album right before pressing. I mean, it was like they cut 15 songs and they were going to put 11 or 12 on the album. And they go, "Well, no, yours was going to be the title cut, but Diane came in with a real chart buster at the end, and yours has got to go." And just people, their hearts would break. It would be like, "Ah, oh, what is happening here?" But she was a force to be reckoned with at the time. Her and Michael Bolton, we were all in the same kind of publishing circle, and they were forces to be reckoned with at that time. You would get kicked off of projects just because they wanted to be on it. It's an interesting period.
Yeah, what's interesting about that period too is that, when we look back in reflection, far, far fewer artists existed back then. So those choice spots that like you and Robin are talking about of getting those cuts were limited. It's not like you had, 65 choices. You had like, the top 8 or whatever, Starship, this one, Rick Springfield, it wasn't endless. So, whereas now it you have an endless supply of outlets for songs. And what's interesting is that today, a lot of writers, which is when this started in the era you're talking about, a lot of artists today do not write their own songs. It's never been a better time for, pop music to get the outside song, because a lot of these people don't write their own material.
Yeah. And
You
the
know?
ones that do, they weren't brought up in an era where the skill of songwriting was something you really had to work on.
Exactly.
So, when you hear a song that's like structured and creatively put together properly, and you compare that to something that's written by, a first 2-year, 3-year writer that's in the year 2025, 26, it's like the difference is stark. It's like one is monolithic and goes nowhere and develops nothing. And the other one, from seasoned writers, it had depth. It went somewhere. It was a journey. The song was a journey. So, it would be great if the newer artists that are coming up, that are just the singers now, are unbelievable. The singers coming out in 2026, 2027, I've never heard better singers in my life. And they just need songs. And if they somehow dip their toe back in the 90s, 2000s, if they're smart, they'll get a good song and just, self-release it, because record companies aren't releasing any of this. It's independent artist world now. They're all
That's
doing
right.
all the work. So if they just take a song that's like structured properly, it would be great for them. But I don't know if that mindset is purveying through, kids that are like 18 to 25 now.
No, it's not. And that's the big difference between artists back then. If they had talent, like a great voice, great writer, or great performer, there was a whole system in place to support that artist. And that world doesn't exist today at
No.
all. I mean, you have to bring your own career as an artist, 0 to 100. You have to bring it to about a 40 before you are even acknowledged in the business. And anybody can make music. That's the problem. Back in those days, you had to have a certain skill set, like you're talking about, to make music. Not everybody could do it. Now your neighbor can do it. Your neighbor's children can do it. But, the challenge, of course, is kind of the opposite of what we've been talking about with your song. Now it's bringing attention to it.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you that question, which Robin wanted to know as well, is like, what are you going to do now that you've gotten, the song discovered again? Yeah. What are you going to do with, the songs again, and you're putting them up and so forth. So
Yeah.
Ken, did you have questions you wanted to ask as well?
Yeah, I mean, on the surface level, Jerry, I know it's a while back, and I know it's a song you probably never even thought twice about until you learned it had this whole second life as this internet mysterious song. Between yourself and Michael Bradley, do you remember anything about the actual session of recording that?
I believe that I had a garage studio at the time, and we cut all Mark and I. Mark's a great musician, and Mark and I cut all the tracks in my studio, which was at that time, I believe, the beginning of digital recording. So I think they were digitally preserved. I'm not sure. I got to go back and look on hard drives. But we recorded all the tracks, and then Michael just came over and sang, and it was that simple. And Michael lived quarter mile from me at the time. He and I were real good friends. We used to hang out all the time. And he just came over, probably not more than 2 takes. It's crazy. He was amazing, and one of the best singers I know. And he would come over, 2 takes, do some background vocals, mix it up, send it to the publisher, and we were done with it. It was that kind of world back then. It was like we were a factory. We tried to be as prolific as possible, and just throw everything against the wall, see what stuck.
So did he sing on multiple songs for you, or was Somewhere in the Night?
I got him on multiple songs. Yeah. And for a period there, I did sound-alikes for movies, and Michael used to do all the Rod Stewart sound-alikes, and he was just spot on. He was. If you go to my website, you can look at the Rod Stewart sound-alike. I swear to God, you will not be able to tell it's not Rod. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, now that Somewhere in the Night has retained this whole second wave of fame as kind of this famous song, I definitely think any other Michael Bradley demos you have, I definitely think would attract a lot of attention as well. Because now that Somewhere in the Night's really hot, I myself would absolutely love to hear anything else you have with him on it. So I think that would definitely be a good outlet for them. And there's just kind of a funny poetry with that song itself versus the life that it has taken, because I was listening to it to prepare for this and just really kind of getting the lyrics in. And it's funny how the whole thing of that song, Somewhere in the Night, love is gonna find you. So it's all about kind of being in an unknown, dark place and just having trust that love is going to come to you when you least expect it. And that's so weird how that's basically exactly what happened with the demo itself. It was just this weird, unknown relic that was hiding somewhere in the night. And here you have the love from all these fans that finally found it. And now it brought you into the light. So there's a really fun, almost poetic symmetry to the song versus the legacy that it got that I think it's kind of hard to ignore, and it makes it a really cool story at the end of the day.
The metaphor is wait and be patient. That was the metaphor of the song. Just wait, let it come to you. Be patient. And I'd say, let me see, how many years has passed? What are we, 30 years later? That's being patient enough.
And it happened. And it's just like even Robin, how you and I just couldn't get over how you and I had two parallel mysteries going on that ended at the same place with Michael Bradley.
Yeah,
being
and you
like,
solved, I mean, Jerry or whoever solved the mystery of finding you, Jerry, whoever that is, thank you, because I,
It's Ken, really.
yeah, because I now I want to talk to Michael Bradley so I can get his permission to release that song he did 30 years ago that I couldn't release because now I need his permission and I'm sure you can give me his contact,
Oh yeah.
but for years I was like, okay, I got to find this guy. So I got to find out. I don't know. I must have had a senior moment just to blank his last name because I knew it and then I didn't. And then we didn't write it down anywhere. He just came in, did the session, paid session singer. And I knew he was a writer in his own right, though. And I didn't keep in touch with him. Like what happens in life, you don't keep in touch with everybody. And so now I would love to reconnect with him. But so you saw your mystery solved my mystery. So that's really cool.
Check out the new YouTube channel I just put up. It's called search for Back Deep, BACKDEAT, and you'll see a bunch of old demos that I had. It's taking me time to put them up there, but go check it out. I think you might get a laugh out of it.
Yeah, and Robin, you should definitely look for, because Jerry, that's how I got involved with this series, was that Robin wanted to interview me as a fan, like as a fan perspective of this music. Also because my age kind of stands out as being a huge fan of this genre of music, despite the fact I was not born until 1997. So that kind of jumps out a little bit. And it's funny, in the original interview we did, that was when the Somewhere in the Night search was still very much going on.
Right.
And I even talked about it in that interview.
Yes.
Yeah, because Robin or Ritch or someone asked me a question about legacy and the legacy of music, and then I was able to make that connection of there's even unknown songs that people are going crazy about.
Ken, did you find out who that one song was?
No, so there's one particular one that's driving me crazy just because of how 80s it sounds, and it's so perfectly arranged in this it's we don't know for sure, but it's been dubbed as Somewhere in the Night is what it's dubbed
That's
as.
the one you sent me.
Yeah.
That's when I sent it to you, Robin, just because I was going through,
and I gave it to a lot of people and not everyone got back to me. But Guy Marshall was like, nah, I don't know it. Robert's like, I don't know what that is. Nobody
and
knew.
Shazam doesn't know it either, huh?
No, it's
only part of the song, right? It got chopped.
Yeah, it's only like a verse and 75% of the chorus. Like people dubbed it Somewhere in the Night because if you listen to that sample, it has a chorus build up that bum 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 somewhere in the night. Like it's
actually a good song. I mean, I listened to it and I thought it was worthy. I thought it was real true AOR. It's just too bad, like in this music business, in the entertainment business, it's so hard to get noticed. It's so hard to get anyone to listen to you. So the fact that there's this ghost song, shadow song that nobody can claim who wrote it is ironic to me. That there's nobody out there going, I did it.
Yeah, well, because you look at, it's not that hard, because we've talked about all the Marcy Free demos, all the Robin Randall demo. Like, if you go on, like, it's not exactly that hard to go out there and find AOR demos, floating around out there. So it's like, where did this one, because it obviously had to be somewhere if this sample made it to the internet, which dates back to 2008, because it was used in a song compilation from 2008. And so it was just a bunch of random songs, no information. They were all identified from this compilation, except for that song is like right in the middle of it.
Wow.
And it's just a weird, and see, I'm very stubborn when it comes to, because I lock onto a song that I really like. It's like, I want to hear this whole song. And now I'm faced with a predicament where it's like, okay, I really want to hear this song. Nobody knows what it is. And it's
No, and it's not like the singer doesn't, the songwriters, and then you did try the copyright office, right?
yeah, I mean there's a lead that they have. It's two songwriters, one one named Eric Presley, who has since passed away, and Ken Rose, who because this Ken Rose guy came forward and said, I think that's our song, but that's not my demo recording of it. I
How
think
would you
that's
say, I
someone else.
think that's our song? I mean, you would know if you wrote a song.
Because he
Wow.
yeah because
Maybe.
he's like yeah, I think that's our song, but that's not our recording of it, and I think some of the lyrics are different, so it's like
So where's your song, Ken? Show us
Yeah.
your song. Show us your copy of the song.
and he didn't have it, so that's why, like, because the
Uh,
Eric
Did you
Presley has
try? Did you try putting it
unfortunately
on
passed
Reddit?
away.
Did you put it on Reddit?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nobody.
Nobody.
There's Lost Wave Reddits. Like there are wiki articles about Somewhere in the Night out there.
Because it's a really good story, and when you look at all the poetic stuff with the song itself and how it solved your mystery and all of this, so that's it's very uplifting. It's
And,
very
and
nice to be a
and
part of something.
you asked me, Ken, you said, well, we don't even know if that's the actual name is Somewhere in the Night, but we could only think that that stands out as the hook, like ding, 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 that's the name of the song. And so he asked me, do you think that's the name? And I said, well, obviously you can name a song anything you want it to be. There has been, as a songwriting teacher for so many years, I was always saying, well, if somebody needs to find the song, like now we have Spotify and all that, but if you had a song on an album, to find the name of it, it's good to name it the hook, but there's no rule that you have to do that. So I said, well, if it was my song, Ken, I would, Somewhere in the Night, Love's Gonna Find You. You don't have to, you don't have, and then Somewhere in the Night should wrap it up at the end of the chorus. It should come back to Somewhere in the Night if that's the title, and that's what it does. And so it's you did what you should do to hook the listeners. It's exactly case textbook writing that way. But I remember once I was driving over the hill into on Laurel Canyon. I was coming down Laurel Canyon, and this REM song came on probably in the mid '90s. I don't know, around the mid '90s or something. And I really liked the song. I'd never heard it before. And there just so happened to be, remember when we had record stores, there would just so happen to be a Warehouse Records at the bottom. I think it was Warehouse, but it was the bottom of the canyon there on Ventura Boulevard. And so I pulled in there and I'm like, I'm going to buy this REM album because I really like this song. So I go in there, I'm looking at the CDs, I'm looking at them, I'm looking at I can't find, I think that the name of the song, I don't know what the name of the song is. And it sounded like, okay, what's the hook? Well, the hook was either Hollywood or Lemonade or something. But I couldn't find it on any REM. I couldn't find the song, and I wanted to hear that song. And they weren't selling singles anymore, and there wasn't yet any. There was no iTunes. There was no Spotify.
Shazam. Yeah.
There was nothing. There was no. I think I got my first cell phone at that point, so I just went home, and then I found out later, much later, somehow I found out that the name of the song is Imitation of Life. And Imitation of Life is a name of a movie that Michael Stipe was watching on TV, and he just got the name from the movie title, but that's not the hook of the song. It's just a line in the verse. It's just a line in the verse. I never would have, if I was on Jeopardy, no, I would not name that as the title of the song. No, it's not that. So that's what I'm saying is, it was so hooky, Somewhere in the Night, that it was like, if you hadn't called it that, I would have been like, well, that really should be the name of the song. It's like, it's the messaging of the song.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I think that now that it's very hot, Jerry, I do think maybe people are going to start covering your song and doing different versions of your song
I would
because
love that.
yeah, so you should
I'd love to see a
definitely,
country artist. I'd love to see a
oh
country
yeah,
artist recover it.
absolutely. You need
Yeah,
Ella Langley. She's the top
she'd
person
be
now.
great.
You need to
Any
get her to
of
do
them that are like in the what I call California country rock country world now.
it.
I think they could cover it. Not the hardcore country, it's like, but like the pop country artists,
Yeah.
I'd love to see one of them just randomly find it and go, what's happening here? Can I cut this? I'd love to see that email come across like, is this available? You
Um,
know,
Jerry, you're obviously an independent writer now. You're no longer with Warner Brothers, right? You are
oh
independent.
no. Yeah.
Would you tell people who are watching this, would you recommend that they be with a publisher or would you recommend being solo, especially in this day and age?
In this day and age, I think you've got to be everything. I think you can't have anybody do anything for you except for a digital distributor. If I was coming up right now, if I was 20 years old right now, I would write, I would produce, I would record, I'd be my publisher, I'd be my manager, I'd be my tour booker, I'd be everything. And the only thing that I would third party out would be a distributor, some sort of digital distributor that has the access to all of the fans. And then I would make sure that I was a marketer. I'd make sure that I was a social media savant. I would put more time into being a social media savant than I would into my music. I'd put my guitar down and learn how to like blitz my marketing campaign. That's the new world we're in. And going with the publisher is just dumb. They're not going to offer you any money. They're just not going to offer you any money. They're not going to offer you any service. They're just going to take your rights. And that's all they're going to do right now.
Boy, do I know that.
Yeah, no kidding. Learning the hard way these days. But, I'm sure all that information is out there for anybody, 18 to 30 right now. So they're lucky. They're getting a business school education on YouTube, which is great.
Yeah.
When we were coming up, it was just kind of like, oops, made another mistake. Oops, made another mistake. Oops, that was a big mistake.
None of those tools existed.
They didn't exist. There were a couple books, but you read them, they were written by lawyers, and it was like,
Right. Very
all they
few.
really cared about was like teaching you how to like structure your rights properly, which was good
Right.
knowledge, but if you had a publisher, they were doing that for you back
Right.
then.
Yeah, I'm fully in agreement with you, Jerry, for sure. I'm gonna segue for a minute. Um, I have a question for you about Marcy Free. How did you meet then Mark Free and did they record for you?
Yeah, Mark is on a couple demos. I'd have to go in my database and look and see which ones. He was an excellent, like high tenor rock singer. And he could really, when I was trying to pitch stuff to like the Def Leppards of the world or the Kiss of the world after they'd been super mega, they weren't super mega but they needed songs.
Mhm.
And the foreigner type bands that were coming up. Mark was a great singer for that. He had that voice, and I actually used another guy that eventually became the replacement for Lou Gramm and Foreigner. He
Oh,
just left them now.
oh,
Kelly, what's Kelly's last name? I'm never gonna remember it. Kelly was a great demo singer back in the day. He's on tons of demos. And then obviously his record deals never really went anywhere. So he had to become a live musician, take the place of Lou Gramm for Foreigner. He did an incredible job, made great money, I hope. But those were the two guys that I would call first. I'd call Mark and I'd call Kelly for the high tenor rock stuff.
sometimes my mom and we would lose the cut of the artist that were holding the song. We would lose it because they could not sing the range of the song as well as the demo singer.
Yeah.
Case in point, John Waite is a great singer. John Waite is a really good singer. But when we had a song being held by Don Grierson, A&R guy, he gave it to Bad English and told us that this song, Someday You'll Come Running, is being cut by Bad English. And then he came back to us and said, well, we love the song, but John's having an issue with the range of it, because John was a good singer, but didn't have that type of Mark free range that Mark did for
Not
it.
many people do.
So he thought, and he's like, we have another artist on the label, on our sister company on Epic in England, and it's a band called FM UK, and we think that they can do it. And I was like, okay, well, I really know who Bad English is, but I don't know this other band. So, okay, but what are you going to do? So it became a green light to a red light. And I'm like, okay, let's go with FM. And they did cut the song. So it did come out. But you wonder about what it would have been on that big Bad English album that's what it was supposed to be. And, and there's been on the internet, and Ken, you could probably chime in on this, but there's been so much of that song, like who cut it first? Oh, it was FM and then Mark Free covered it. No, it was first a demo by Mark Free, then FM covered it, then it was on the Long Way from Love album. So, but that happened a lot. I had a song that Diana DeWitt cut that we talked about. Diana DeWitt, she cut the demo of a song I had called The Last Time. Was held by a lot of artists, and they all rejected it eventually. Sheena Easton rejected it. It was in Top Gun for like 5 minutes and then taken out because it was too fast. And then it was held by just a bunch of people. And Sherry Curry of the Runaways cut it, and then nothing happened. And then Peter Cetera puts it on hold for his album, but then he goes, no, it's more for a female artist. And this is before Mark Free did the demo of it. So then they give it to Agnetha Feltskog of ABBA. And as much as ABBA, ABBA, but she could not sing the range of the chorus. So they rewrote the melody. They didn't ask for writing credit either. I only found out they rewrote the melody by hearing the song released. No one asked us if they could change it, but Peter Cetera was a really nice person, and he goes, we changed it. I hope you like it. We try to do it justice, but it isn't the same song. When you listen to Agnetha's Last Time and you listen to Diana DeWitt's Last Time or Mark Free's Last Time, they're not the same song. But I remember being kind of like, that melody, that chorus melody is what. And it's not there anymore. It's like the harmony. And my mother just said, because we were being offered by Warner Brothers an advance in Sweden, in Scandinavia. And my mother just said to me, Robin, shut up and take the money. And I did. So, there's where art and commerce just don't come together. So sometimes you just got to go, this is business. You got to cut. Shut up. You got the song cut.
Yep, just write another one.
And then I just said, no, he said it was not a male vocal. I'm going to put a male vocal on that song. And that's how Mark Free came to sing The Last Time, is because we're going to do a male vocal on it. I want to thank you so much, Jerry, for this session with you. And thank you so much for doing this. And I'll let you know when I post it.
Awesome.
Yeah, this was a really great talk. And I look forward to seeing what happens to your song now going forward. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm just going to sit and wait and watch.